Before we begin, if you care about real wartime survival knowledge grounded in history and not theory, subscribe to this channel and leave a comment telling me which era of survival history you want covered next. This channel exists for people who take history seriously, and your support keeps these deep dives coming. Now, let's get into it. When World War II tore through Europe, Asia and parts of Africa, peasants and rural civilians were not surviving on heroism or luck. They survived because of systems, habits and food strategies built long before the first bomb fell. These were not survivalists with gear catalogues. These were farming families with nothing but land, memory and discipline. If you want to understand true long-term survival, not short-term prepping, this is where the real lessons are. The first critical trick was calorie-first farming, not variety farming. Wartime peasants prioritized crops that produced the highest calories per square meter with the least attention. Potatoes, turnips, cassava, barley and maize dominated because they could be left in the ground, harvested gradually, and survived poor weather. This meant food was not stored in one vulnerable place. Even today, the lesson is clear. If you grow food, prioritize calorie density and resilience over novelty. A small potato patch can outperform a diverse garden when stability matters more than taste. The second survival method was underground storage mastery. Root cellars were not conveniences, they were life insurance. Built into hillsides or dug deep with stone and wood, these spaces stayed cool year-round without electricity. Potatoes, beets, carrots, apples, and even cured meat could last months. Peasants layered straw, sand and ash to prevent rot and pests. The modern application is simple. Temperature stability beats refrigeration dependence. Even a basic buried storage pit can dramatically extend food life. The third genius trick was fermentation as preservation and nutrition. Sauerkraut, kimchi-style vegetables, sour grains and fermented dairy were not cultural quirks. They were survival tools, really. Fermentation preserved vitamins when fresh food vanished in winter and prevented starvation diseases like scurvy. A single cabbage could be transformed into months of nutrition. Today, anyone can apply this by fermenting vegetables with salt and water alone. No electricity, no fuel, and no waste. The fourth tactic was animal micro-livestock instead of large herds. Wartime peasants shifted away from cattle and pigs when feed became scarce and switched to rabbits, chickens and goats. These animals required less food, reproduced quickly, and could be hidden from occupying forces. Rabbits, in particular, converted scraps into protein efficiently. The lesson here is scalability and concealment. Smaller livestock can sustain families quietly without attracting attention or requiring vast resources. The fifth survival strategy was fat preservation and reuse. Fat was more valuable than meat. Lard, tallow and rendered animal fat were stored in crocks and reused for cooking, lighting and even waterproofing boots. Peasants understood that fat meant energy, warmth and calories. In modern terms, learning how to render and store fat safely is a critical overlooked skill. Oil shortages cripple food systems faster than grain shortages. The sixth trick was seed saving under pressure. You see, peasant families guarded seeds more fiercely than valuables. They would select seeds from the strongest plants and, well, hide them from requisition forces. This clever practice ensured future harvests even after crop destruction. Nowadays, relying solely on store-bought seeds creates vulnerability. So, learning basic seed saving from open-pollinated crops, it really does restore control over food independence. The seventh method was wild food integration, not desperation foraging. Peasants already knew which wild plants would supplement diets seasonally. Nettles, dandelion roots, acorns, wild berries and mushrooms were integrated deliberately, not scavenged in panic. This approach prevented soil depletion and balanced nutrition. The practical takeaway here is education before crisis. Learning local edible plants now, well, it turns landscapes into assets later. The eighth survival system was communal food pooling disguised as tradition. Villages quietly redistributed food through shared ovens, rotating slaughter days, and collective preservation efforts. This reduced individual risk and hid surplus from occupying authorities. For modern survivalists, this really reinforces the importance of trusted networks. Isolation is fragile. Cooperation extends resilience. The ninth and final trick was absolute waste elimination. Nothing was thrown away. Peels became soup stock. Bones became broth. Ash became fertilizer. Even spoiled food was repurposed for animals. This closed-loop system kept nutrients cycling endlessly. In practical terms, learning to extract every calorie from food dramatically extends supplies without increasing production. These strategies kept millions alive through bombings, sieges, rationing, and occupation. They were not improvisations. They were inherited knowledge refined under pressure. If you want to apply this today, start by shifting your mindset from convenience to continuity. Ask whether your food systems can survive without power, transport, or supply chains for months. If this breakdown gave you new insight into real wartime survival, subscribe to the channel, share this video with fellow history buffs, and leave a comment about which survival era or conflict you want analysed next. This channel exists to preserve hard-earned knowledge that history nearly buried, and you're part of keeping it alive.